Good morning to everyone. Thank you, Pam, for the kind words. But truly, it is the team effort that we are here to foster today that makes things happen. I am here to support and continue to support animal welfare and also domestic violence survivors and programs to help domestic violence. When I sponsored this legislation this year in the Finance Committee, when we were trying to figure out how to balance the budget, and I come up with a bill that says for domestic violence victims and their animals. The first part, domestic violence victims, I sponsor usually every year. But when it said and the animals or their animals, everyone looked at me like, what? You want to do what? And their animals too? Well, there's limited funding. And I said, well, you know what? Then we need to reprioritize programs here and different spending levels, because animals are part of the family. They feel, they see, they hear, they provide care, not only from a therapeutic standpoint, but from an assistance standpoint and just emotional support, as Pam and others have said here today. Much more than that. And so I mentioned to them that this is linked. We cannot separate families. If we're going to support and continue to provide funding for domestic violence victims, we need to ensure that they feel able and comfortable enough to leave their home when they need to, when they are getting abused, and they have made that decision to go seek help. I can't imagine, as others have said here today, what it must feel like to know that you are going to leave the abuser at home, and you have to leave, but here are your animals that have no way to make a call and defend themselves, no way to seek help, no way to run to a shelter. Completely helpless, and we would do that. We have to continue to work at this effort. I love the acronym CARE, Companion Animal Rescue Effort. We have to continue to try to work at it. In this legislative session, I came to tell you that I intend to sponsor legislation again and every year as long as I'm a senator to continue to augment this funding. Yes. And I wanted also to mention that it is the first time that we have a special appropriation for this particular purpose. So what we want to do is kind of segregate it to ensure that it doesn't get lost in the shuffle of all the needs that we have, but in fact that it is used to protect animals and also to protect victims of domestic violence. Because as we know, in helping protect these animals, we are helping domestic violence. It cannot be separated in any way. So we'd like to segregate that funding to ensure that we can help it grow and we can call the attention that it needs, or attention to it as it needs it every year, until finally we can truly make a huge difference. We can bring back some statistics that show how much we are helping domestic violence victims by helping their animals and so on. I like the word coalition, because as we know, alone we couldn't do anything. We can spin our wheels and continue to work, but it's through team effort and coalitions that truly care, that show the passion that you here are for today, and truly compassion, because that's what it's about. We can't forget our humanity here. It is very true that in sponsoring this legislation, there was a deep emotional feeling that I had inside of me, because I could picture, just from the statistics I was given and the information I was giving, I could picture the scenario that was happening in homes. And it's not something you can just leave, go home and forget about. It's real and it's serious. Just briefly, I wanted to mention, and I know Daniel gave most of the statistics here about the percentage of victims and so on that can't go to shelters because they don't want to leave their pets and so on. But I wanted to mention something that hopefully this legislation that I passed and the funding that started this new fund will help in linking providers and organizations to be able to collaborate and become one in this effort. And that will go a long way because, as we know, animal shelters don't have the space or the capacity or the funding to accommodate all the animals that will be, going to them. But we can work towards ensuring that there is funding and placement for these animals. There should be absolutely no inhibition. When people have to leave their homes for abuse, we should be able to have a comprehensive plan for a holistic approach to this whole venture to help people with domestic violence. I saw this sheet, and I'm going to end with that, and I hadn't had a chance to read all of it, but I saw the headline now as Alicia gave it to me, and the headlines on a few of these squares, one of them says, "Domestic violence is prevalent in New Mexico." And I know Daniel mentioned 18,000, I think you did, Daniel, 18,740 incidents of domestic violence reported. We know that that's not all, because, that a lot of people don't report domestic violence, obviously. And, when you think about, I think in the next sheet I saw where 70, I think, Alicia, you had it here, there were 3/4 of people, here we go, somewhere in here I saw where it says 71% of pet owners entering domestic violence shelters report that their battered or had threatened, injured, or killed family pets. When you think that, that's 3/4 almost of pet owners entering domestic violence shelters have seen that, have experienced it, and who knows, we may have 90%, 95%, maybe even more, that are not reported. And so there's a lot of work to do. I agree with you, and I intend to continue to spearhead this program even more. I know a lot has been put into place, and I want to thank Animal Protection, the Coalition for Domestic Violence, all the volunteers, and many others who have truly taken to this and are helping us in getting this done. So together we can proceed, we can make the difference, we can protect and save animals and their families. And you know what? Maybe even through all of this, maybe the abuser will finally come to his or her senses and see that, there's help. There's help out there for this, but primarily the victims and the animals. So thank you very much for all your help.